The difference between number 3 and number 4 is statistically significant. It almost triples. It goes from 17 to 46%. Now, what's the difference? Why is number 4 more compelling? The difference is, in number 3, I'm likely doing it for positive reasons. You know, I want to be fit, I want to be healthy. And it's kind of like New Year's resolutions. They don't always stick. They don't always hold, right? In number 4, I'm doing it to avoid negative consequences to me that are very clear to me. And of course, it almost triples, right? And so it's much more compelling. And that leads to a quote I heard maybe 20 years ago from Anthony Robbins, and that is, people are essentially motivated by 2 factors, pain and gain. And of those 2 factors, the avoidance of pain is by far the greater motivator. Now, you're probably looking at that and wondering, I'm not suggesting that you're trying to inflict pain on people, just so you know. This isn't about inflicting pain, and it certainly isn't about fabricating pain that doesn't exist. But if people truly understand, so what's the downside pain to us of staying the same? What's the downside pain of not doing it? That's far more compelling and motivating than selling the upside gain. Why do I say that? Because almost every government and beyond presentation I look at when they're selling change, they're selling the gain. Folks, this will make us more effective, more efficient. You know, we're going to provide better services. We're going to be more customer focused. We're going to be more organized. That it doesn't hold. It doesn't stick. Now, that's not to suggest those benefits aren't real. They probably are. But if you're only selling the benefits without any attention or balance given to the downsides, it doesn't hold water. It's like those statistics I showed you. I'll start, but I'm not going to finish. You're learning this new game, and each of you is doing it exactly the right way, the way you'd been instructed. And you did the first practice hand, and things went exactly as they should. And then you did the first real hand in silence, but you're still with your people at your table, and things pretty much go exactly as they should. But then you're either asked to move to a new table, or you get new people coming into your table. You couldn't talk, but all of a sudden you start to notice some very weird things. You notice that these people are picking up tricks that you don't think they won. And you were just starting to feel so good. There was a buzz in the room this morning, and everyone was so warm and friendly. And now, who are these people? It's really... Now, you couldn't talk, but what were some of the things? Just, you know, I know it's a big room, but just shout out, what were you thinking in your mind? What were you thinking? What were people doing? What was happening for you? What were you thinking? Cheaters, exactly. They're cheating. What else were you thinking? That's right, they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand. They don't know the rules or what they're doing. Very good. What else were you thinking? What's that?
They're confused.
Yeah, they're confused, meaning I'm confused too? Oh, they're confused. Oh, yeah, exactly. These people are confused. Must be some new folks. You know, they're really confused. Very good. Anything else you were thinking? Yes. Again, imagine that each table is a department or a work unit. Each of us gets this new policy, new program, new procedure. We're doing the absolute best we can. Each of us gets some confidence, if you will, that we're doing it the right way. Then what happens is I either get new people coming into my department, or I move to a new area, or we get a new leader or something like that. You can't always communicate as well as you want because people are in meetings, people are busy. Sometimes we're working at remote locations. Everyone has a slightly different interpretation of the right way to do it. And in the absence of good communication, chaos breaks out, right? Because what happens is you could just see it on people that think, oh, I see, I thought you were cheating or something, or maybe not too bright. But I see, but now I realize, you know, you were just doing what you were told. So what happens is, in the absence of good communication, lots of negative assumptions and stereotyping go on. The advantage of good two-way communication is it can take us back to that positive place. And it just became so much energizing again. It was de-energizing, then re-energizing as soon as you could communicate. So it's just my way of introducing that. I always say, if this can happen in 5 or 10 minutes of a friendly card game, imagine 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, 50 weeks a year, where, as you said, some of this is going on. What happens then is, at best, I'm complying. Hey, I need the job. I'm just getting through my day. But at best, we've got compliance. And of course, for change to work, you need to take it beyond that. What's a change challenge you've got? Yes? Getting buy-in from the staff. Okay. So I'm going to show you a 4-step, what I call strategic influencing process for getting buy-in. But it isn't meant to be manipulative. So it's not getting buy-in or, hey, take a day or two to vent, but get on side by Monday. Right? It's not that type of buy-in. It's not forced compliance. It actually causes an attitudinal change in them, whoever they are, in terms of getting buy-in. Good. What's another one? And I'll repeat them as they go out. So it's not that painful. If you don't mind just shouting out or giving one. Yes, good. Sit and smolder. I'm going to repeat that again. Staff who don't communicate, but they sit and smolder. We actually developed a case for you today, and there's one person there who's offside, but is kind of sitting and smoldering. And so what do? And there's a couple of reasons why people sit and smolder. One is they are trying to be disruptive and dysfunctional. And the other is, in the past, they've opened their mouths and gotten slapped down for it. How do I manage the expectations of my bosses? How do I influence up? And again, this 4-part strategic influencing model, I'll touch on it there in terms of how I can influence up. There's a couple of ways I can do that. It's not easy because they have a power advantage over me. They have more authority on the hierarchy, so, I don't want this to be a career-limiting conversation. Right? And then the other part of that was said is how to manage expectations up and down when things are unclear in terms of perhaps my role or what's going on. Change, a few years ago I had a deck built, just a small deck on the backyard, and the beauty of building a deck is you and the construction person can get very clear. They can sketch you a blueprint, and it comes out exactly as it's supposed to. And it's very clear and obvious and transparent every stage of the way as they built it. Change involves ambiguity, and that's really tough for people, because if you're a manager, you usually pride yourself on your competency, and that means having the answers, knowing what's going on. So it's not much fun to be middle management where you don't have all the answers. Sometimes the senior folks don't either, of course. And yet I'm being asked those questions, so my people are thinking, either you know something and you're not telling me, which means I can't trust you, or if you don't know something, why don't you? Because you're the manager, which means you're incompetent, right? And so it's a lose-lose game, and I'm going to look at that and talk about how you can create more partnering and more inclusiveness so that that sort of blame isn't falling on you. I'm very excited about a couple of things that Barack Obama does that relate to change. And his mantra is, of course, and you've probably seen the slogan, change that we can believe in, right? Change that we can, and this is not a political pitch for Barack Obama, but I do like that slogan because it relates to a lot of what I teach. The biggest challenge, I think, for organizational change is employees don't believe it. They'll come over and they'll tap my shoulder at the break and they'll say, the trouble is, I said, I must admit I'm a bit cynical about change in the OPS, because he said the reality is what we left 10, 12 years ago, we end up coming back to. Another person said to me, if I was 21, well, I think I could be real enthusiastic about change, but guess what? I'm 41, and I've been through some of these, and they don't always work, and sometimes we do go back. And then, of course, because it's a political spectrum, if we get new leaders, they have new ideas. And another frustration with people sometimes is we don't even complete what we were doing. We don't finish it, and we certainly don't measure it in terms of learning and best practices, and then we just go try another change. And this is not to discourage you, I promise, but you're probably sitting there thinking, oh my God, this sounds terrible. But it is meant to be straight talk. And actually, I think one of the things you're going to hear me say today is one of the worst things you can do in change is overhype it. In my book, I call that cheerleading. And cheerleading is the overly positive emphasis on the benefits without any balance to the potential downsides.